This is Bama-Q Live. I'm your host, Lisa Blackwell, and today we've got Billy Strickland with us, and he is going to do a ham and sweet potato bites, right?
That's right.
All right, well, let's get to it.
Okay. Yeah, today we're going to show you how we call a double smoked ham. So this is a absolutely wonderful ham as is. It's a Compart Duroc country pit ham. It's a whole boneless smoked ham. You can just put this in the oven as is and it's going to be great. We're going to sort of kick it up, add a little festivity since we are around the holidays. And we're going to do a cherry bourbon glaze and a rub, barbecue rub, and put it on the smoker. Good. So it's going to be absolutely wonderful. So a couple of things I'm going to do. I'm going to actually do a little bit of an injection to the ham.
Oh, cool.
So a key or a trick here is this is already in a vacuum seal plastic. If you leave it in there, then you don't have to worry about all the injection flying around and getting everywhere.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So we're going to just put a little bit of this injection into the ham. It's going to give it a little bit of flavor. So in this injection, yeah, it still squirts out at you. Yeah. We have some cherry juice, some apple juice, a little bit of bourbon. You can put bourbon, you can put rum, you can put whatever your festive drink of choice is.
Oh, wow.
But it's just going to add a little bit of extra flavor inside to go along with our barbecue rub and our maple bourbon glaze that we're going to do. You can put as little or as much as you want. This ham is so packed full of flavor, as you can see whenever I'm taking the needle out, it's squirting back at me, but that's okay. So
yeah, and I'm just staying out of the way here.
Yeah, it will get messy.
Good thing I wore black.
So, all right, you can put as much or as little as you want in there. That's about, I put about a cup or so. We usually can do more. So with this, we're gonna go ahead and cut this open now. And if you want, you can do that injection the night before. And that'll just give it more and more time.
More time to sit and give it flavor.
To give some flavor. I've done pineapple juice, I've done bourbon, I've done rum, pretty much any flavor that you like with your ham. So we're going to add some rub to this. But what I want to do is I want to score this ham. Now, if you happen to not get the absolutely wonderful Compart ham, and you go get a spiral sliced ham from your grocery store, then you don't have to worry about doing the scoring. What the scoring is going to do is allow some of the rub and some of the glaze as we glaze it to get down into the first parts of the ham.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get it down to the very absolute middle of the ham. You just want to try to get that ham to open up a little bit as you cook it and all those flavors to get down in that first half an inch or so. So score this up real quick. We're going to do both sides, make sure we get some flavor everywhere.
Watch your thumb.
Yeah, yeah. These Gunter Wilhelm knives will take a thumb off if you're not careful. So. All right, making my mess over here. So I want to take some mustard. You can use, I'm using Dijon mustard today, but you could use yellow mustard. You can use any kind of mustard. Barbecue sauce, Deep South's got a nice balsamic barbecue sauce. It's got some mustard in it. Today I'm just following the recipe as is, which is just regular old Grey Poupon Dijon mustard. So then we're going to take some barbecue rub.
Need paper towel?
I'm good. I'm going to sprinkle some on it. Now you don't want to get this insanely covered because you don't want to take away from the glaze that we're going to put on there. But as you're smoking, you know, use your favorite rub. There's a lot of rubs out there that have sort of a sweet note to it. So you could use that. This is one that we put together ourselves. We use on our competition pork butts and competition briskets and ribs. So once you get that all mixed up, I'm going to cook this on the smoker in this pan. That way, as I put the glaze on it, I don't lose any of the glaze. All the juices stay in there. And depending on how hot you're cooking, the recipe calls for this to be done at about 250. We're cooking a little hotter today, one, because it's cold, and two, because we want to get it done a little faster. So if you put it in the pan, you don't have to worry about the bottom burning.
Okay.
All right, so I want to put this on the smoker. And then I'm going to prep what's going to be the glaze.
Okay.
So the glaze for this is, grab me a napkin or a paper towel if you don't
You
mind.
paper towel?
The glaze for this is based on bourbon and cherry jam,
Okay.
which is going to give you a couple of things. The bourbon obviously is going to give you a nice flavor. The jam's going to give you a little bit of a texture. It's got the chunks. This actually happens to be cherry preserves, which is a little chunkier.
And kind of works with that cherry injection.
Exactly. Everything
So
works
that-
together.
yeah.
You think about hams at Christmas, a lot of times you have, cloves and pineapple and cherries. You can put any of those mixtures, any of those flavors together inside and out, and it sort of helps the flavor profile overall. So we're going to take about a half a cup, and I am completely eyeballing things today, of cherry jam or cherry jelly or pineapple preserves, whatever you want. We're going to take some brown sugar, again about a half a cup. I got some of these measured out here so we can go a little faster.
Like your little cups there, those are great.
Yeah. Now, your favorite bourbon. It can be bourbon, it can be whiskey, it can be rum, whatever your preference is. We're not going to cook this till it's boiling, so there will be some rum left over. So it's sort of like a rum cake. There is a little bit of alcohol left in there.
Okay.
So just be aware of that.
I don't think you get complaints about that.
No, you don't, not if you want your kids doing that, though. We have some fresh squeezed orange juice. I squeezed this a little earlier.
Okay.
You get the fresh squeezed, you get some of the pieces of orange in there, and it's a lot nicer. You get a little bit of texture as well. Apple cider vinegar. I pretty much don't do anything
I can smell that.
anything barbecue without a little ACV.
Right.
A touch of mustard, about a teaspoon and a half, something like that. A little bit of salt. And then if you like allspice, you can add some allspice. I'm not a huge allspice fan, so I don't add that to mine, but you certainly can. Now what you're going to do with this is you're not going to put it on right now. You can see that we put the ham on earlier with just the rub and the mustard.
Right.
We're going to put this on the smoker. If you do this at home, you could just put this on the stove. But what you want this to do is simmer for about 20 minutes. And then you're going to take it off and let it cool because you want it to thicken. So when you pour it over that ham, it doesn't just all fall into the bottom of the pan. You want it to be thick enough that it sort of oozes and gets into those cracks.
Are you going to bring it to a little bit of a bubble?
Yep, so you want it to bubble, but not
right.
a rolling boil. Otherwise, you make some nice candy that you can eat later. So,
Right, not too much.
yeah, you want a little bit of a bubble, but not a rolling boil.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to put this on the smoker as well. We're going to let that go.
I'm going to help you out a little bit here and wipe this off. So you're ready to go.
Yeah, clean up my mess. I'm a messy cook. My wife can attest to that.
Okay.
So one of the sides that we use quite frequently with at our house in Christmas dinner and even Thanksgiving dinner is sweet potato casserole, right? It's a real big southern. This is sort of a
Southern
deconstructed version.
Uh-huh.
It also gives you a little bit of a option. So typically you got people who don't like nuts or can't eat nuts. Some people don't like marshmallows at all. So what these are going to be is sweet potato bites.
Okay.
So I'm going to grab my sweet potatoes here.
Got them already cut up?
Yeah, already cut up.
Okay.
And basically you can cut them as thick as you want. These are pretty thin because we wanted to cook kind of fast. You can cut them up to an inch thick. They're just going to take a lot longer to cook.
Right.
And what we're going to do with these is we're going to mix these with some maple syrup,
Okay.
which I have here, portioned out again, and some butter. And we're going to toss these, and we're going to add a little salt to them, and we're going to put them on the smoker or in the oven and cook them until they're nice and soft. But halfway through, you can turn them over. You can add a little more salt. You don't really need to because the way we're going to finish these, the salt's not really going to matter that much.
Okay.
So I'm going to grab my butter, which I forgot my little container, so I made me a little butter
makeshift
thing
container,
there, yeah.
huh? Hey,
You know, when you're out here, you got to do what you got to do.
right there. You can just fold up some foil and melt it in there.
Yeah, just take foil, make it about 3 layers
Yeah.
thick, and that butter is just going to melt and just stay there. So what we have right here is just butter and maple syrup. I'm going to take these pieces, and you can make more of this. I'll put a spoon there. Because I'm only doing really thin pieces, that was just a couple tablespoons of maple syrup and a couple tablespoons of butter. If you're doing this for a big family or you do real big thick pieces, you can certainly make more. You can see as cold as it is, this butter is not staying melted very fast, but that's okay. It'll cook when it gets into the oven or the smoker. Now this is where you can sort of make it unique. And somebody who doesn't like pecans or marshmallows, we won't do that step for them. Someone who prefers a butter mixture that's not real butter, if they're vegetarian or vegan, you can use pretty much anything that's got that, but you want that butter flavor because that's really going to
really
give it that taste.
Right.
So the last thing we're going to do, and I forgot, took my glove off. We're going to add just a little bit of salt. There's enough sweetness in this from the maple syrup, from the marshmallows, that you need something to sort of make a savory note. Otherwise, it just becomes overtly sweet.
Okay.
So, just going to take a little kosher salt. Just going to sprinkle a little bit on each one. And when you turn this over, because some of this maple syrup will end up pooling together, you'll lose a little bit of that. So it may look like I'm putting a whole lot on there, but honestly, it's not going to really be that much when you get done with it. So we're going to put these in the smoker. If you cook them about 350, it should take you about 20 minutes. We're cooking the ham a little lower today, so these can stay in there as long as you want.
Okay.
This is when they're fork tender, like you do with any sweet potato. Like I said, about 20 minutes or so, turn them over if you're cooking them low. At about 10 minutes, if you're cooking them hot, you want to turn them over. All right. So I'm gonna put these on the smoker.
Okay.
And then the next thing, I think you got a dessert for us that you're
I
gonna
do.
work on, right?
I didn't mention it, but yes.
Oh yeah, we gotta
I've
have
got
dessert. This
an
is sort of the
eggnog
mid-dessert.
pie, kind of a special thing for Christmas. Yep. Wipe this up really quick. Get that off of there. Okay, so go ahead. Really quick. Okay. Bring up eggnog pie ingredients really quick.
And this has a lot of components to it,
This does have a lot of components to it.
but it's not really overly complicated when I was looking at the recipe that we were going over.
No, it's not too bad. I'm going to pull this out really quick here,
Stick your foot up.
just so I don't mess anything up. Okay. This is a pie that my mother really likes to make at Christmas time, and I beg her to make it because it's really good. I made my own pie crust, and we do have a pie crust recipe. However, she sometimes will go and purchase a pie crust. She'll get a graham cracker crust or a chocolate pie crust. You can do that. It's good with chocolate. But I made my own. Pull that out here. Put my pie crust there. Basically what you're going to do is, do you have my melted butter back there?
It's right here.
Okay.
I brought it out for you.
You're going to take some graham cracker crumbs, cinnamon and nutmeg,
Well, that's got to add a different
and a
flavor
quarter
to
cup
the
of
crust.
sugar. Yes, and it actually contributes to the pie there with that flavor. You're going to pour your melted butter in there, and you're just going to stir it up. Stir it up really well. When you get it mixed up really well, you're going to press it into a pie pan, just like I have right here. And then you're going to press it all around in the pie pan. Put it in a 375 oven for about 8 minutes. Watch to make sure it just browns a little bit. Take it out and let it cool. And then we're going to do the next two mixtures. I have an egg mixture that goes into a whipped cream mixture.
Get me to get those out of your way for you?
Yeah, sure, that'd be great. I'll just borrow a little of your salt, I guess. Normally I wouldn't use that salt. but-
Yeah, so this is eggnog base, right?
Right.
So it's got all the components of a traditional drink that some people really love. And then the crust is still interesting with the cinnamon and nutmeg in there.
What I think I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take some unflavored gelatin and sprinkle it over 1/3 cup of rum. That usually takes about 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do it now for our purposes.
Yeah, so the gelatin's got to bloom. That gives it some thickness. That's sort of gives it almost a gelatin custardy flavor, I think, right?
Uh-huh. It does. Kind of a custard. You know, I just kind of stir a little bit.
Yep.
So we're going to take sugar. We're going to take 2 eggs and just a little bit of salt. I'll just use a little. It's like 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. I'll just sprinkle a little of this in there. And then, believe it or not, I got a mixer.
Yep. So the nice thing about adding salt to something sweet is people think salt is savory. Salt actually enhances sweetened flavor just like it does savory flavors.
And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and mix this together. You want it to get smooth. So you're going to mix it for a little bit until it gets smooth. We probably won't go that far with this just for today's purposes.
Yep.
Once this gets smooth, you're going to take this bowl and put it into a pan of hot water. Once you put that in there, you're going to continue to mix for 5 minutes.
So a lot of people call this a bain-marie. So what it does is it keeps the water keeps the egg from getting overheated, because otherwise you end up with scrambled eggs. So that layer of water, when it heats, stays at a specific temperature. It never goes over. So that's why you can melt chocolate, you can do these, you can do any kind of custard base by doing it in what they call a bain-marie or hot water bath.
So you do this for about 5 minutes, and in those 5 minutes, your gelatin has bloomed in your rum. And usually what I do is I just take a little whisk and I just kind of stir it a little bit. I don't think mine has bloomed yet here because we've been out here.
It's a little cold out here too.
Yeah, it's cold out here.
If you're inside, it'll bloom a lot faster. When you're out in the cold like we are today,
right.
It'll take a little longer.
And basically what you're going to do is after 5 minutes of mixing this and it's really smooth, you're going to take this and you're going to add that to that ingredient and you're just going to mix it up until it's very smooth in your warm water.
And again, that'll keep it from becoming scrambled eggs, but it'll get the eggs cooked. So that way, and that's one of the things about eggnog, you can drink it even though it's got what people think are raw eggs. They're actually tempered eggs. So they're safe to eat without having to worry about.
You'll have a very smooth mixture when you're done. And when you're done with that, you're going to remove it from the water and set it aside and let it cool. Mine's a little separated because it's been sitting out here. But you're going to have a mixture that's somewhat like this. And what you'll do is you'll stir it before you combine it with the whipped cream. Next thing I'm going to do...
Need your whipped cream?
Yep. Oh, that's my end product. But grab my... I need my whipped
heavy
cream.
cream is under there, right there.
Yeah. You need 2 cups of heavy cream.
And one thing about heavy cream is it lasts a lot longer than people think with the milk because of the milk fats that are in there. But when you whip with heavy cream as opposed to whole milk, it takes a lot less time because the extra milk fat in there creates the air bubbles that help you get whipped cream.
And then you got 2/3 cup of confectioner sugar. We're going to whip those together. I just need to wipe my... Oh. Try to wipe my beater blade off here really quick.
There you go.
Just for demo purposes.
Yep.
Wipe that off really quick. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and mix that. You probably want to start out slow so things don't go all over the place, but trust me, in this bowl, whenever I do this, I usually end up with whipped cream shooting everywhere. If you have a deeper bowl, that's even better. So you're going to go ahead and take it up slowly into a higher speed. And you want to beat this. Can you grab me a scraper? Right inside that plastic tub. You're going to want to beat this until peaks form. Just till peaks form. I'm going to go around and scrape this just a little bit.
Have you seen them on TV when they tell how the whipped cream is done? They turn the bowl up over their head. And if it stays, that means it's a good whipped cream. It's a stiff peak. I don't know if you want to try that today.
I don't know if I want to try that today. That might not be a good thing.
Yeah.
But you go ahead and you beat this. Actually, I'm going up high now. Watch out for flying whipped cream. Don't want to get this on the camera lens or the producer will be very upset with me.
Well, this can take a while, again, depending on the temperature, depending on the age of the whipping cream. So you said your mother used to make this?
My mom makes this, yeah.
Every Christmas?
These days, every Christmas my mom makes this, and it's a favorite, family favorite. Everybody loves the frozen eggnog pie. She likes to make it with screech rum. Screech rum she picks up in Newfoundland. And then what you do is you take your egg mixture. This was the stuff that you had mixed earlier in the water bath, and then you let it sit and cool. You just take that egg mixture and you're going to pour it into your whipped cream. Actually, this is not quite warm. It's almost there. Right. You fold it into this, and basically what you're going to do is fold it in, and you have to fold it. Don't stir it. Fold it very carefully till it's mixed through, and you end up with something that looks like this. Whoa! Flying recipes. And then after you get this, you're going to pour that into your pie shell. And just basically, I can go ahead and do that here. You're just going to pour it into your pie shell. Like that.
The folding keeps it nice and fluffy, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise you break all those air bubbles and you end up with a very thin pie as opposed to a nice thick pie.
I'm going to pour that in there. I usually smooth it around like this just a little bit. And then you take a little bit of nutmeg, sprinkle that across the top. Just like that.
That looks wonderful, just like it is.
Yeah. And then you're going to stick it in the freezer for 4 to 5 hours at least. You could probably make this pie up to a week in advance. And when you get done, we've got a frozen version that's actually out here, ready to eat.
All right.
You're going to go ahead with yours,
right? Yeah, we're
right?
going to go back and talk about the finished product with the ham and the sweet potatoes. We'll do a little cleanup right here. All right, so what we're going to do is I want to pull out the sweet potatoes first. Here, I'll
Okay.
grab those.
Yep.
So we've had sweet potatoes that were in the oven. We talked about earlier, we did the maple syrup and the butter and the salt. So when they come out, they shrink quite a bit.
They do
but they
shrink
look
quite a bit.
candied. These
Yeah.
are pretty small sweet potatoes though. I mean, there's some of them that are really big. So the next step that you're going to do is you would typically put a piece of marshmallow on each one. And these are really big marshmallows, so I cut them down so we wouldn't absolutely crazy cover the sweet potatoes. But you would normally put these back in a broiler, right? Because you want these to get that nice color. Again, if someone doesn't like it, doing it this way, you can leave it off.
Leave it off, right.
What we're going to attempt to do today
Woo,
is
we
I've
got
got my
a
little
torch
torch
out here.
and we're going to try to show that color
Okay.
of the marshmallow, if we can. So you can see it
yeah.
browning up a
Yep,
little
yep,
bit.
Yep. Yeah, I see that.
Now, when you do this in the broiler, you get it grows a little bit. It gets a nice color. So we won't do all these. We have too long. We'll get in trouble for timing here. But these would just go into the broiler until. Now, if you leave these in too long, I can tell you right now that you will end up with a marshmallow pool, and you will not be able to find your sweet potatoes.
Oh, okay. So timing is important.
Timing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have these in the broiler, and under a broiler, they only need to stay 2 or 3 minutes. You would take a pecan if the people like pecans. Again, if you're allergic to nuts, you want to leave this part out. And then I usually would put this back in for just another 30 seconds.
Uh-huh.
That helps that pecan sort of get down into that gooey marshmallow. And then those will be ready to plate. Again, if you use a bigger or thicker one, you have more room for.
And they look pretty too.
When they come out of an oven, they look really good. So I want to set these down here.
Okay.
And we did our ham earlier, right?
Right.
So we obviously come prepared. So here's
Look
what
at that.
the finished
That
product.
is beautiful.
Now we've done 2 rounds of glaze. So as you're smoking this in your smoker at about 130 internal temperature, you'll pour about half your glaze on there.
That smells so good.
Then you let it go up to about 140.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, this is a pre-cooked ham. It's actually completely done. So at 140, you take it out, you put the extra bit of glaze on it, and you can let it sit for about 20 minutes. We didn't do that out here today because it's 40-something degrees.
We're cold.
And the ham would be cold by the time we got to it. So I left it on the smoker. But you see, you get that nice dark color that the cherry juice and the cherries provide.
Yeah.
The syrup, the bourbon gets that flavor in there. So what I'm going to do now,
okay,
I'm going to pull out a plate. Remember, you eat with your eyes first, right? So we did some cherries, we did some oranges, which are the flavors that we have inside there. So everything sort of works together. So I'm going to take this out of the pan, and it's going to be messy. You want to move that because I don't want to get ham juice all over.
Uh-oh.
all over
No
the
ham
pie.
juice in the eggnog pie.
So I'm going to cut this down the middle.
Whoops. Okay.
It's a nice, it's what they call a ham slicer. A lot of people call it a brisket knife. Gunter Wilhelm makes a great one. And you can see there's a little bit of smoke coming off of this. It's a great color to that. You don't see a lot of what we put on the inside because those flavors, you can taste them, but you're not going to necessarily see anything about that. So I'm going to put that piece right there. And then I want to do some slicing.
Smells great.
So I'm going to try to do relatively thin slices. If you want to do real thick slices, you could do that, and then you could cube this up and use it in, a ham for breakfast with eggs would be really good. But that cherry that's in here is you're going to really be able to taste it on the outside. And like I said, you can see a little bit how this opened up where we scored it. That helps some of that flavor get down in there. So that's kind of a big piece. So what I want to do for presentation,
Cut that.
I'm going to cut these in half. And then we would lay these out in front of the ham. And you put as much as you need.
Okay.
And then I'm going to grab our sweet potato bites.
Okay.
Use a fork. These may have got cold enough they're going to stick to my plate here. And we will put these out. We're sniffling out here today in the cold, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
And again, you put these in under a broiler. You get a consistent color on those.
You know it's cold when you can see the steam coming off of everything.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to put this last one on here just as a decoration.
Okay.
And then you want to grab your
Yes.
pie. I'll put the rest of this back in here. And we will clean up for the dessert. You can see all the juice that's coming off the ham. It will retain a lot of that, and that's another reason that I cook this in the pan. Otherwise, all that juice that we see here would have just came right out.
Yes.
And went into the bottom of the smoker. So you got your finished product.
Ready for pie? Okay. Here's the frozen pie. Ready to go. I'm going to grab my knife here. Of course, there's no reason that you can't use your Bama-Q heavy-duty knife.
That's right.
This pie has been out a little bit, so it's had a chance to soften. And that's what you want to do. When you take it out of the freezer, you want to let your pie soften up. Let's make this. See if we can get a piece out of here without too much of a disaster. It's very soft because it's been out. Where do you want me to put this?
If you
Right
want,
there?
we can just move this to the side and we'll just have one plate for everything. How's that?
Hopefully we're gonna get this out. The first piece is the worst,
It
right?
is. It's sort of like cutting a cake. The first piece never looks as good as the rest of the rest of the cake.
It has softened up quite a bit. Uh-oh.
Well, we can just eat it out of the pan.
Yes. You know what? I don't think I'm gonna try to take it out of here.
Okay.
We're gonna eat it out of the pan. But anyway, that's a really good pie. Great crowd pleaser at Christmas time. So
Good Christmas flavors all around, the dessert
Yeah.
side and the ham.
absolutely, I think this would even work together.
Yeah.
So anyway, from our Bama-Q family to yours, we hope that you have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Bama-Q Live.